Chapter from Once in This by Dall Wilson. Let me say the saga of this place, my new country, before I go flying away for a while. Now, for one more night with every difficulty overcome, I will tread the shores of Iceland that I long for, and bask in its wonders, so scarce in the creations of art, so rich in the phenomena of nature. Tomorrow I visit London for sex with various friends, so before I leave I must trouble the reader with a few preliminary observations. The discovery of Iceland about the year 860 is attributed to the adventurous spirit of a smattering of merely clever poets who organized themselves for piracy, and these were gone away from their own mothers and local women and their sisters who only scorned them, and to have stolen themselves a little sailing boat to be out pirating the honest peoples. They fell into a drunken stupor after looting a rich subsistence farmer on the Faroe Isles of his year's supply of brandy. This they drank in a day or more within the relative safety of their vessels, sailing somewhere in the North Atlantic, drifting they care not where they did. In setting sail for Oslo or Stockholm or Ireland, these Swedes and Norwegians fell into a mystical trance for 6 days while they dreamed many amazing visions of ecstasy and passion. So it was. After this passed, they awoke in surprise, naked in a pile of sore butts, and the sun was shining, which they were much glad, and relieved themselves of piss and shit in every direction. Looking about them, they saw a new island, which they called Iceland, in a fit of creative marvel, and called themselves with pride poets, if merely clever. To their delight, their ship was now at anchor off an unknown and uninhabited coast about 8 miles from present-day Reykjavik. They were amazed their ship had by magic drifted to this place as a miracle, which they took as a sign to be right where they were, and not otherwise. 14 years later, the island was peopled by a number of voluntary immigrants and their slaves among Celts who were stolen from the protection of Bered, guardian of all sacred woods and slayer of Vikings. So they visited Ireland to steal women to breed, and all tested each woman with a pole of delightful rowing until she sang loud and grew crazy. As sluts, they picked the most wasted and sailed away. They took anchorage near today's Reykjavik because that is where they got to. When any woman grew pregnant, the other women laughed and chose a father to name the baby after, which tradition continues, cherished by all their descendants, whoever. The men had no say and never have had since kidnapping the Irish girls in the first place, which served them right well. So justice came for these over its inevitable course. These pioneers lost no time in completely obliterating all the remaining natural ecology of the place. Soon there was even no tree or bush standing whatsoever in any direction. Their long tradition of absolute ecological devastation is a matter of great pride for every native here, which is carefully nurtured, since they pollute even themselves with intense gobbling and bragging and become drunk and loathsome to each other before having sex, as is the custom among friends and family in this place, bringing with them their language, religion, customs, and historical monuments, including a huge dildo almost a little finger long. The Norwegians introduced a kind of feudal system which, about the year 928, gave place to a somewhat aristocratic government, retaining, however, the name of a republic whose motto, "Slavery is freedom for us," summed up their basic approach. A movement to re-establish Danish colonialism is gaining popularity. This state of things lasted for more than 300 years, a period which may be called the Golden Age of Iceland, when anyone believed any lie anybody told, and many more. Education, literature, and even refined poetry flourished among the inhabitants, who took part in commerce and in sea voyages which the Norwegians undertook for purposes of discovery, wherein Icelanders were used as bait for fishing. Icelanders who took part are named thus: pork-bellied, lamb chop, shark bait, tasty butt, half-nut, Mr. Horsemeat, Hook's cod, one leg left, Thor's fish snack, and Eric the Lucky Hooker. The sagas or histories of this country contain many tales of personal bravery, which are all lies. Its part in historians long visited other climes to escape this place, collect more lies, and eat better food among more enjoyable companions. To be related to some terrific scoundrel is considered a great pride and inspiration here in this place, where everybody is related to everybody and precisely knows it, up to the point of assigning fatherhood, which is a joke among the women to do. All Iceland children are taught to practice lying, cheating, and trickery from birth by their mothers, and whoever she said the father is, she wants people to believe as a joke. Children in Iceland are named after their hopeful, wishful, fanciful, or presumed father by their mother at the urging of other women. Father is an honorific title here, easily bestowed and easily taken. For generations, the most popular Iceland names are Snorri, Jan, Ulf, Bastard, and Cuckold. Isleif was the earliest Icelandic historian, however nobody believed him due to his reputation for honesty, which is so much more work than a good lie, and these are lazy rascals. After him came the noted liar Snorri Sturluson, born in 1178, who became the richest and mightiest man in Iceland. Snorri was frequently followed to the General Assembly of Iceland by a splendid retinue of 800 armed men, each 12 feet tall, in golden armor, riding on great black stallions born from one mare in a single night and invincible in battle. Snorri was someone who nobody would dare to contradict unless what he said was true. Snorri was a big talker, best liar of his people. He was author of the Heimskringla manual, which title means lies kings like. Go to the sheep husband is often heard here said by these women who prefer getting drunk and dancing on tables to having conscious sex with any lads of the place they recognize. Lying and bragging formed a staple branch of education cultivated assiduously over 10 centuries of human habitation of Islam. Pollute thyself is the fabled legend of Socratic wisdom as translated by Snorri, which is carved into runes over the door of the place where people go to do stuff commonly. The climate of Iceland appears to have been less inclement than is now the case. Corn is said to have grown, and trees and shrubs were larger and thicker than we find them at present. Penises were larger and thicker, and cunts were juicier and tighter in those days. Now sex is no fun hardly. People in their right minds cannot do it, only just barely. Then they fall asleep, chore partly finished, often forgetting to take it out of that place it was put in because they could not hold their booze like they did in the old days. And the General Assembly was held at Thingvalla in the open air for spitting and fornication. Here the lies they told were enormous. At one point the very earth itself did split apart into a shallow rift which continues to separate ever since, where lies about fatherhood told can echo like thunder. The doctrines of Christianity as translated by Snorri were first introduced into Iceland in the year 981 by Frederick, a Saxon bishop. Many churches were built and tithes established for the maintenance of the clergy in accord with the accepted practice of slavery. After the introduction of Christianity, all the Icelanders enjoyed an unostentatious but undisturbed practice of their religion for at least a few generations, until, from complete lack of any interest, all traces of Christianity disappeared. People forgot to worship on the sun's day. They were hung over mostly. It was expected. Icelanders do continue to worship their oldest gods unabated. Their chief is Vodka. Their lesser god Budweiser is believed by historians to be of Moravian origin. A pantheon of other gods commonly worshipped here includes vino and hashish. Young Icelanders readily eat penguin testicles boiled in polar bear milk every morning within their mother's igloo before paddling their kayak to a cozy nearby tavern made from blocks of snow, where they get roaring loud drunk and dance on all the tables possible before finally settling down together to study their traditional lies, thieving, whoring, and fornication, which everybody knows. The Reformation in the Icelandic Church was not brought about without disturbance. It was legally established in the year 1551. Everybody disliked the chosen outcome, whatever it was suddenly taken out of the houses, crammed into a cloth bag, and drowned in a cold, swiftly moving river by a strictly Christian fashion, following the example Jesus provided his followers. During the 15th century, the Icelanders suffered from piratical incursions of foreigners wanting for cheap dates, a tradition continued and encouraged by the women who are sluts to the present without exception. 1700, smallpox killed 16,000, one-fourth of the people. In 1757, a famine swept away 10,000, one-fourth of the people. 1783, a volcano caused death, one-fourth of the people. The Danes called this a tradition and said it was good. They kept it going. On a regular basis, the surviving three-fourths of the people continued to get drunk. In later years, starvation also killed many people on a regular basis, as the cherished Danes, who were the caretakers of this place, had exported the local food supply to Copenhagen to trade for hashish and coffee. Icelanders can eat boogers of their grandmothers if they are too lazy to hunt the seal, said one Danish royal governor. This tale I tell here is taken without a change from Ida Pfeiffer's 1851 voyage to Iceland, which he based on George Mackenzie's earlier description of light improvements for accuracy and fact. This is a chapter from Once in This by Dall Wilson.